Episode 61. Good, said Harry fervently, because he'll just fall apart again and we'll lose the next match.
Quidditch,
said Hermione angrily.
is that all boys care about? Cormac hasn't asked me one single question about myself. No, I've just been treated to 100 great saves made by Cormac McLaggen. Non-stop ever since... Oh no, here he comes.
She moved so fast it was as though she had disapparated. One moment she was there, the next she had squeezed between two guffawing witches and vanished.
"Seen Hermione?"
asked McLaggen, forcing his way through the throng a minute later. No, sorry, said Harry, and he turned quickly to join in Luna's conversation, forgetting for a split second to whom she was talking.
"Harry Potter,"
said Professor Trelawney in deep, vibrant tones, noticing him for the first time. Oh, hello, said Harry, unenthusiastically. My dear boy, she said in a very carrying whisper, the rumors, the stories, the chosen one. Of course, I have known for a very long time. The omens were never good, Harry, but why have you not returned to divination? For you, of all people, the subject is of the utmost importance.
"Ah, Sybil, we all think our subject's most important,"
said a loud voice, and Slughorn appeared at Professor Trelawney's other side, his face very red, his velvet hat a little askew, a glass of mead in one hand, and an enormous mince pie in the other.
"But I don't think I've ever known such a natural at potions,"
said Slughorn, regarding Harry with a fond, if bloodshot eye.
"Instinctive, you know, like his mother. I've only ever taught a few with this kind of ability. I can tell you that, Sybil. Why, even Severus."
And to Harry's horror, Slughorn threw out an arm and seemed to scoop Snape out of thin air toward them.
"Stop skulking and come and join us, Severus," hiccuped Slughorn happily. "I was just talking about Harry's exceptional potion-making. Some credit must go to you, of course. You taught him for 5 years.
Trapped. With Slughorn's arm around his shoulders, Snape looked down his hooked nose at Harry. His black eyes narrowed.
Funny. I never had the impression that I managed to teach Potter anything at all.
"Well, then it's natural ability," shouted Slughorn. "You should have seen what he gave me. First lesson, Draft of Living Death. Never had a student produce finer on a first attempt. I don't think even you, Severus."
Really, said Snape quietly, his eyes still boring into Harry, who felt a certain disquiet. The last thing he wanted was for Snape to start investigating the source of his newfound brilliance at potions.
"Remind me what other subjects you're taking, Harry?"
asked Slughorn. Defense against the dark arts, charms, transfiguration, herbology.
All the subjects required, in short, for an aura,
said Snape with the faintest sneer. Yeah, well, that's what I'd like to do, said Harry defiantly.
"And a great one you'll make, too," boomed Slughorn.
I don't think you should be an aura, Harry, said Luna unexpectedly.
Everybody looked at her. The auras are part of the Rootfang conspiracy. I thought everyone knew that. They're working to bring down the Ministry of Magic from within, using a combination of dark magic and gum disease. Harry inhaled half his mead up his nose as he started to laugh. Really, it had been worth bringing Luna just for this. Emerging from his goblet, coughing, sopping wet, but still grinning, he saw something calculated to raise his spirits even higher. Draco Malfoy being dragged by the ear toward them by Argus Filch. Professor Slughorn, wheezed Filch, his jowls a-quiver and the maniacal light of mischief detection in his bulging eyes.
I discovered this boy lurking in an upstairs corridor. He claims to have been invited to your party and to have been delayed in setting out. Did you issue him with an invitation?
Malfoy pulled himself free of Filch's grip, looking furious. "All right, I wasn't invited," he said angrily. "I was trying to gate crash. Happy?"
No, I'm not, said
Filch, a statement at complete odds with the glee on his face.
You're in trouble, you are. Didn't the headmaster say that nighttime prowling's out unless you've got permission? Didn't he? Eh?
"That's all right, Argus, that's all right," said Slughorn, waving a hand. "It's Christmas, and it's not a crime to want to come to a party. Just this once we'll forget any punishment. You may stay, Draco."
Filch's expression of outraged disappointment was perfectly predictable. But why, Harry wondered, watching him, did Malfoy look almost equally unhappy? And why was Snape looking at Malfoy as though both angry and, was it possible, a little afraid? But almost before Harry had registered what he had seen, Filch had turned and shuffled away, muttering under his breath. Malfoy had composed his face into a smile and was thanking Slughorn for his generosity, and Snape's face was smoothly inscrutable again.
"It's nothing, nothing," said Slughorn, waving away Malfoy's thanks. "I did know your grandfather, after all." "He always spoke very highly of you, sir," said Malfoy quickly. "Said you were the best potion maker he'd ever known." Harry stared at Malfoy. It was not the sucking up that intrigued him. He had watched Malfoy do that to Snape for a long time. It was the fact that Malfoy did, after all, look a little ill. This was the first time he had seen Malfoy close up for ages. He now saw that Malfoy had dark shadows under his eyes and a distinctly grayish tinge to his skin.
"I'd like a word with you, Draco," said Snape suddenly.
"Oh, now, Severus," said Slughorn, hiccuping again. "It's Christmas. Don't be too hard on him."
"I'm his head of house, and I shall decide how hard or otherwise to be," said Snape curtly. "Follow me, Draco."
They left, Snape leading the way, Malfoy looking resentful. Harry stood there for a moment, irresolute, then said, "I'll be back in a bit, Luna. Bathroom."
"All right,"
she said cheerfully, and he thought he heard her, as he scurried off into the crowd, resume the subject of the Rotfang conspiracy with Professor Trelawney, who seemed sincerely interested. It was easy, once out of the party, to pull his invisibility cloak out of his pocket and throw it over himself, for the corridor was quite deserted. What was more difficult was finding Snape and Malfoy. Harry ran down the corridor, the noise of his feet masked by the music and loud talk still issuing from Slughorn's office behind him. Perhaps Snape had taken Malfoy to his office in the dungeons, or perhaps he was escorting him back to the Slytherin common room. Harry pressed his ear against door after door as he dashed down the corridor, until, with a great jolt of excitement, he crouched down to the keyhole of the last classroom in the corridor, and heard voices.
"Cannot afford mistakes, Draco, because if you are expelled—"
"I didn't have anything to do with it, all right."
"I hope you are telling the truth, because it was both clumsy and foolish. Already you are suspected of having a hand in it."
"Who suspects me?" said Malfoy angrily. "For the last time, I didn't do it, okay? That Bell girl must have had an enemy no one knows about. Don't look at me like that. I know what you're doing. I'm not stupid, but it won't work. I can stop you." There was a pause, and then Snape said quietly,
Aunt Bellatrix has been teaching you occlumency, I see. What thoughts are you trying to conceal from your master, Draco?"